Okay, so welcome to chapter 5th, and this is all about the project scope management. So what are the agenda for this topic is why to manage the scope and the plan scope management, collect the requirement, define the scope, create a WBS and validate the scope, control the scope. So these are the basically the important process which is a part of the scope management. So we're going to show you this the PDF copy where basically these if you see this plan scope management, this plan scope management, collect requirement, define scope, and create WBS. So these are the process which belong from the scope management, and they are basically grouped under the planning process group. So basically, if you know that, like a scope management, what you are going to do it, like your planning or scope activities, so scope of the project. So what will be the in, what will be the out, what requirement. So that is where you're going to do the planning part. Collect requirement, again you will be you're basically the as part of the planning because you have not started anything. So collect requirement is one of them. So define the scope is again you will going to define the scope of the project. So create a WBA, that's the work breakdown structure that we're going to come to know on the coming slide. So these are the things basically they're part of the planning process group. So validate scope and control scope is a part of the monitor and controlling process group. So just remember it, the planning process group and monitoring and controlling process group. So this scope management, it has a processes only in two a process group. One is in the planning, another is a monitoring and controlling. But integration management, it has a process in all the process group. Okay, so that was one of the things that you need to remember it. So let's come to the slide and so we'll take this slide, and one of them is the important thing why you are going to manage the scope. So this is we'll take this diagram and we'll try to understand what this diagram is itself trying to explain it. So if you see this diagram, see this diagram, and read the description, how the customer explain it. So customer, actually end result is this thing. This is what the customer was expecting. Like how the customer really need it. This is something like they are expecting it, and what they have done it, because this is the final output the customer was expecting. Okay, they need some sort of that. Now, how the customer explain? Does the customer explain in such a way that but the project leader, he did not understand properly, so he understand in this format, and then how the analyst guy or those who have designed things, they have designed in this format, like they are cutting this tree, and if you see how the programmer have written the code in this format, but the business consultant, the way they have it described in this format. So if you see this difference, if you are not going to document what is the customer requirement, and if you're not going to take a sign off of it, then there is a misunderstanding. Then you are not going to understand what the expectation was that. Okay, so it is better. That's why this diagram is all about. This diagram is trying to show that this is what they're explaining it, and their expectation is something different. Okay, this is what they're expecting it. Now let's this business consultant explain in this way. How project document was zero, nothing was there. That's the reason there's a proper communication gap is there. Communication they did not understand the requirement properly. What operation is stalled? Since the project document was there, requirements not been done properly, operation was wrong. But how the customer was billed? Customer billed like anything. They have given a lot of bills because and how the customer was supported, and customer got this thing. At the end, customer expectation was this thing, but customer got at the end, he received this thing. The reason is that nobody have documented the requirement, nobody have taken a sign up from the other people. So that's the reason. This is why this is a scope come in the picture, because if you that's why you need to document the scope of the work activities, and that's what is in, what is out. Okay, So if they have this guys, the customer guide, whatever they have explained it, the customer, if they have the project leader, if they can document all those things, if they have taken a sign up from the customer, I think they will be on the same page, but they did not do it. But so since the project leader did not understand properly, so whatever he understands, he tried to explain the same thing to the design guys. So he designed in a very different way. And if this guy would have taken it, there will be some document, and this will be there which explain the requirement properly, or it has been shown to the customer that this is how your requirement is. This is a design or prototype that I have shown you, and please sign up. If they are okay with that, this design, then means you are good to go. Basically, you have some proof which says that this is what the customer expectation is that. So this is why the managed scope is very important, where you're going to be document each and every requirements, and you are going to document the scope of the project and take the sign up of that. So the next thing that we are going to cover is the plant scope management. So plant scope management is one of the process which belongs from the scope management knowledge areas. So what you are going to do here, you will basically to plan how the project scope will be defined, validated, and controlled. So here basically the how the project scope can be defined, how it can going to be validated, and how it will going to be controlled. So there will be plan of for that. Okay. So that is what will the plant scope management does it. And what is the output of the plant scope management? That you will have a scope management and you have a requirements management plan. So you have these two output from the plant scope management. So if you see this, what will be the input? So you'll have two things. Most important, that's a project management plan and project charter. Because project management is like an integration of all the subsidiary plan. Okay. Now, if you have a project management plan, you know that what is expected, what is the in date, and what is in expected deliverables are there, so that you can consider within a then according to you can plan your scope. Project charter, which I've shown you earlier. So in the project charter, if you see this, in the project charter, always things are defined. What is there within the scope, what is outside the scope, and sometimes it gives you the the scope in terms of your assumption will be there, like if assumption, what are the constraints are there. So these things, what are the risks. So these are the things, if you have it, so this will help you to plan your scope of the project. So that's why the project charter is one of the input of this, the plant scope management. So these are the two inputs, and again, enterprise environment factor, organizational process, these are the two input that you will get most of the processes from these knowledge areas. And enterprise environment factor is nothing but which affects your project, or and those things which is basically outside your organization, which you can't control it. So that will become your enterprise environmental factor. Organizational process is like a repository or any documents which is a part of the organization that you can use it, that can help us to plan your scope. So these are also become your input. Okay. So what are the things that you are going to do it? Definitely you are going to do the expert judgment on meeting. So you are going to discuss with the team and try to finalize the scope of the project. So that will be basically, these are the tools that you are going to apply as a part of the on this input. Okay. So these are the tools and techniques that you will basically going to apply it. Okay. So what output will be there? So a scope management and the requirements management plan, these are the basically two output that you will get it from the plan scope management. Okay. So the most important topic from this chapter is the collect requirement. Okay. So yeah, tell me.
What is that requirement management plan? That is the output area.
Okay. So the requirement management plan. Okay. So this will tell you that how you can plan to gather the requirements of the customer, because the customer, how you're going to validate or document it, the requirements that the customer going to give you. Okay. So that's become your requirement management, because when customer give the requirement, you need to note down, right, whether you are going to use a MS document, or you're going to use an Excel file, or you're going to use some paper or some hard copy printout, how you're going to document. So you should have some plan for that, right? Hello. Did you understand?
Yeah,
Okay.
got it.
So that's basically your requirement management plan about it.
Okay, fine.
Scope management is what is your in the scope, what is the outside your scope. So you'll be planning, you're going to consider what things that will be in the part of the scope, that you will also going to document it. But requirement, customer gives a lot of requirement, but you need to filter out what needs to be in the scope, what is the outside the scope. You understand? So these are the two different things: scope management and the requirement management. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
But both are somewhere they are related to each other a little bit. Okay. Okay, so the most important part of this, this chapter and session is a collect requirement, where you'll be basically you'll get at least 2 or 3 questions based on this process. And so, what you're going to do here in the collect requirement, to determine and document and manage the stakeholder needs and requirements. So that's where what is the stakeholder needs are there, what their requirements are there. You are going to document it. You are going to determine that. You are going to discuss with them. So you're going to basically do all those part of this collect requirement. Means you're collecting the requirement. By word itself explain that you're trying to collect the requirements. Okay. So what will be the input? What tools and technique you're going to apply, and what will be the output? Okay. So the input will be, you have seen, right? You'll scope management or requirement management plan. If you see this most of the time, it's not a fixed, it's not a rule something. Sorry, just 1 second. Okay, so most of the time we'll find that, okay, the output of a previous process will become a input of a next process. So if you see this scope management, requirement management plan, it will become your input to the collect requirement process. So you'll have a stakeholder management plan. So this will, why the stakeholder management plan is required? So see, because you're going to hear, it's written, right, to determine, document and manage the stakeholder needs and requirement. I should know, right, who is the stakeholder in my project, who is the something who is going to give the requirement. So that's why I need a stakeholder management plan. Okay, because from there I will get a requirement, right? The project charter is really important, because this will going to help you to give you the who will be the stakeholder, who will be the all other information. Okay, so what are the risks are there, what are the assumptions are there, what are the expected deliverables are there. So project charter is one of the input. Stakeholder register. So stakeholder register means a list of all the stakeholders who will be part of this project. So that will be also going to become one of the input for this collect requirement. Requirement management plan, yes, you know that how you are going to document your requirements. You will have a scope management plan, how you are going to document, and this is your scope of the project. So these are basically your input of this collect requirement process of this this is scope management. So most important part, that's the tools and techniques. So they will be asking a question on the different tools and techniques. They will be going to cover it in coming slides. So we're going to take it, what is the interview, what is the focus group, what is the facilitated workshop. So this thing we're going to cover it, each and everything. So let's understand what is the output. Okay, so these tools and techniques get applied on these input, you'll get this output. So what is the output of the collect requirement? That's a requirement documentation. So you have all the document where the requirement was specified. Means it's basically a requirement document. So you have some documentation where all the requirement was given, where the customer has been documented. So that's become one of the output of this collect requirement. Requirement traceability matrix. So you can, I will show you one of the coming diagram. What is how the requirement traceability matrix look like? Okay, but requirement traceability matrix is basically you're going to document the requirements. Okay, and you can trace each and every requirement. Trace in the sense basically who will be the owner for this requirement, who will going to develop it, when it will get delivered. So it's just like some sort of a plan itself. Okay, requirement traceability matrix. I will show you that diagram. It is there. Yes. The requirement traceability matrix is there. These are the requirements ID will be there. Okay, and like 1.0, 1.2. So your requirement description will be there, like a business opportunity, goals, objective will there. then you're going to specify the project objective, and you're going to specify the WBS deliverable. What is your expected deliverable that you are expecting it? A project design, project development, and test cases. So each and every requirement that you can document in such a way that you can track it. Okay, that's a part of your requirement traceability matrix. It's just an Excel file or something that you can track it. Each and every requirement. So this is called a requirement traceability matrix, and this is the output of the collect requirement. So I will come to this slide. Okay, what are the different tools and technique which is there on collect requirement? So there's the interviews, focus group, facilitator workshop. So 1 second, I'll show you this. 1 second. So if you see these tools and techniques, so what is the basically interviews? Okay, interviews when you discuss with somebody. Okay, you're going to interview because okay, if I need some information from somebody, what I'm going to do it? I'm going to interview him, right? I will try to find it. So this is interview is one of the the tools and techniques that you can use it as part of the collecting requirement. I'm developing like a new, for example, one of the companies. Okay, he wanted to build this Android app. Okay, for their business requirement or iOS app. So basically, they're going to interview the guys who will be using it, right? Maybe they're going to use from the end user. He can interview it also. Yeah, what is your feature that you are looking from this thing? What are the things that you can, or maybe from the guy who's responsible for it, from the functional perspective, that you can interview it. Okay, so the interview is one of the tools and technique for collecting the requirements. You have a focus group. Focus group brings together pre-qualified stakeholder and subject matter experts to learn about their expectations, attitudes about the proposed product, service, or result. This is this example, the example which I've told you. This real fits very much on the focus group in terms of like I'm trying to launch a new product in the market. Okay, this iPhone. I'm developing an app for e-commerce website. Okay, so what I'm going to do it. Who will be the user? User will be the person like who will be using it. A customer. Okay, customer will be using it. Or since I'm maybe something those who are selling the product, they can also become a user. They will try to see their product, how the product is visible, and all those things. So they can also become one of the customer. So what I'm going to do it in the focus group is nothing but bring together pre-qualified stakeholder. Pre-qualified stakeholder in basically who is going to use it, who is basically the stakeholder, and then we're going to discuss with them. We'll try to understand their requirement, note down it, and see what can be done, what can't be done. So that's basically the part of the focus group. This is one area. So normally in a big organization, what will happen if they want to launch any application, any software, any application that will going to be used by the different groups. Okay, so what they will going to do it? So they will take a specialist from the each and every group, and they will then they're going to discuss it. Okay, what are the features that they want to include it? So that is a part. This process is called as a focus group. Okay. Third thing is a facilitated workshop. So facilitated workshop is our focus session. So it is again, this is a focus session, but that brings a key stakeholder together to define the product requirement. So here in the facilitated workshop and the focus group is a facilitated workshop itself is one of the focus group, because you are going to basically bring the people and just discuss with them. But here this thing, whoever with the key stakeholder, they will going to tell you what is the product requirement. It is not something, focus is group is nothing but they are a pre-qualified stakeholder. They are not just started like a customer. They started basically they will going to use this application in the future, but they are not someone who will going to approve it, or who will going to approve the this project or something. So facilitated workshop is more on the terms of a focus group, but here those who will be involved, they are key stakeholder. They are very much important people who are going to define your product requirement. More in terms of it's like a meeting or discuss 10 or 20 people just, just discuss with each other, try to find out what is their requirements are there. So that's become a facilitation, right? A facilitative workshop. So this another thing is that it's a group creativity technique. Group creativity technique. So you have these many types are there, which is a part of group creativity technique. So when you talk about the creativity, means you're thinking new, something you want to develop something new, and just discuss with them and try to get that requirement. Actually, some of the group creativity technique that can be used it like brainstorming. So brainstorming is this technique used to collect multiple ideas related to the project and product requirement. So what this technique is all about, you're going to use it to generate and collect the multiple ideas, because 3-4 people are there, or you're going to discuss with those guys, and they will keep on giving a different ideas that you want to implement it. Okay. Although the brainstorming by itself does not include the voting and privatization, but it is often used with other group creative techniques. So what is this brainstorming? Is that just collect, it's all about collecting multiple ideas. But which idea is important, that will become a part of the scope of the project. That is not been decided. Only in brainstorming, just discuss with, some discussion is there. Sometimes if you see this news conference, the people just debate it, but nobody decides this is right or wrong. Just they debate on the particular topic. Try to find out different views, different ideas are there. Okay, that is basically called as a brainstorming session. Sometimes those are called as a brainstorming session also. Nominal group technique. The difference between the brainstorming and nominal group technique is almost same, but nominal group technique you can vote it which one is you want to go ahead with that. Okay, which idea is you want to vote it. So suppose they discuss about the 3-4 ideas, and now there will be voting will be there within a team, and to decide which idea they want to take it first. Okay, so those who have a majority, that will be considered it. Okay, so that's called as nominal group technique. Okay, idea and mind mapping. It is the technique in which ideas created through the individual brainstorming session. So here individually, you're going to discuss with them, have a brainstorming session with. Here it is multiple, okay, but here idea mind mapping is through the individual brainstorming session. Okay, technique is with the ideas created through the individual brainstorming consolidated into the single map. So you're going to discuss these things individually with all the different people, and then consolidate into the single map. Okay, and that reflect the commonality and the difference in understanding and generate a new idea. So what you're going to do here, try to understand. So here it is again type of brainstorming, but here individually you are going to discuss with them, okay, and note down their views, their ideas, and then after you've taken these different ideas from those people, just put it on the map and try to see which one they have their differences, on which idea they have a similar views, on which idea they have a differences. Again, then you can plan according to that. Okay, so that's called as idea and mind mapping. Affinity diagram is all about the technique that allows a large number of ideas to be classified into the group for reviews analysis. So here what you are going to do here, this technique is all about large number of ideas to be classified into the group for a reviews analysis. So you got like a 10-20 ideas are there. Now you just group it into the different categories. So there's like for example building this Android app for e-commerce website. So you got an ideas which is related to the purchasing, the purchasing, the customer behavior, so you note down those ideas. So that will be part of UI, or maybe customer account details. So how billing details. So you can those ideas just put it in the billing categories. So you can analyze it properly. Which one is a better idea to implement it first? Okay, so that's called as a affinity. So affinity is very important. So technique that allows a large number of ideas to be classified for a reviews analysis. Then you will have one more. That's a part of the group creative technique is a multi-criteria decision analysis. So this is where uh, technique that utilizes a decision matrix to provide a systematic analytical approach for establishing a criteria such as a risk label, uncertainty, valuation to evaluate and rank many ideas. So this is where will explain you. So you have some set of criteria for accepting ideas. To accept those ideas, they should have some set of the organization. They have already some decision analysis, some matrix is already there. So what they are going to do is, they have a decision matrix to provide a systematic analytical approach for establishing a criteria such as risk level. Like if any idea is there, they will check what is the risk level of implementing these ideas, what is the uncertainty is there, what is the valuation is there, what is the what is the benefit of that. So those ideas will go through these decision analysis matrix, and then that will become that's called as a multi-criteria decision. The word itself, right? Multi-criteria decision analysis. So on different criteria, you're going to do the decision. You're going to analyze all those things. So this is called as a group creative technique. So you have 5 things. There are 5 types of group technique. Brainstorming. Brainstorming means used to generate collect multi-idea, but there is no voting power. It's just to collect the requirement. Nominal group technique, similar like a brainstorming, but voting will be there. Somebody can vote it which one is good. Idea and mind mapping is like a individual brainstorming session with the people, and then collect those things and put it on the map. So it's individual brainstorming. Affinity diagram, just you have all the ideas, just categorize it, okay? Multi-criteria decision analysis, you're going to use, take ideas and then you're going to analyze based on the decision matrix, okay? Multi-criteria decision matrix. So this is a creativity. Some new ideas are coming. So creativity technique means new things here coming. You're planning to trying to analyze the new ideas. That's a creativity, something. Then you have a group decision making, means you are going to take a decision. Which one I should accept it, which one I should reject it. So that's a part of the group decision making technique. Okay. What are the group decision making techniques are there? So below are the various methods for group decision. One is anonymity. Anonymity is like anonymous. Nobody's known who have chosen or who have given the oath for that. So decision that is reached whereby everyone agrees on a single course of action. One way to reach anonymity is a Delphi technique. So Delphi technique is accepted, known as an anonymity technique, in which selected group of experts answer questions and provides a feedback, regarding the responses from the each round of requirements gathering. Responses are only available to the facilitator to maintain the anonymity. So in this case, people, they will give you the, okay, this is options are there. So the people are going to vote it. Okay, this is they will going to give their decision. Okay, I want to go ahead with this thing, but there will those decisions. Suppose 10 guys are there. So 10 guys, they have voted. Okay, this implementing this feature is the right thing to do it. So, but these responses are available to the facilitator because it's anonymous. They will not going to disclose it who have voted on which part. Okay, so that's why it is called as a group decision making technique. So here it is. This one is also good because they don't disclose the name of the person who have done it. So they will see where the majority comes it and then go ahead with that. Okay. Then majority is a decision that is reached with the support obtained from more than 50% of the members of the group. So here what will happen? Again, voting will be there, but they will see 50%. But it is not anonymous. It is like in front of everybody. So you can do it in front of everybody, but it's all about how the facilitator want to do it. So they will see that any ideas or anything that they want to take it as part of the requirement, if they should have minimum 50% of the voting. Okay, 50% of member of the group, they have more than 50%. So okay, that's part of majority. A plurality is like a decision that is reached whereby largest block in the group decides even majority is not there. For example, here it is some sort of a majority, but sometimes what happens, like 10 guys are there, so there are 3-4 ideas are there. So somebody says, okay, or maybe somebody says yes, somebody says no, somebody says no, neutral. So those who have a higher, large number of people who have voted in which things, that will be accepted. Okay, so that's why it is called as a plurality. Okay, so decision that is reached whereby largest block in the group decides, even the majority is not reached. Okay, dictatorship, in this method, one individual makes a decision for a group. This is like who is the head of that particular department. He just make a decision. Okay, I want this thing needs to be implemented. So it's called a dictatorship. Okay, so this is called as a group decision making technique. So you have a fourth thing. Okay, anonymity is like a Delphi technique. Remember, anonymity is anonymous. People vote it, but their names are not disclosed. Only facilitator knows. Okay, majority 50%. Plurality, it is like again type of voting, but those who have the largest number of votes, that will be selected. But it does not mean the 50%, largest vote. Okay. Dictatorship, one person decide what he wanted. Okay. So that's what called as a group decision making technique. Another part of this tools and technique, that's a questionnaires and survey. Normally, most of the organization, sometimes they want to introduce new product in the market. Now they will go with these questions and surveys to see how the responses are there or the functionalities they want to implement it. So this is also happening nowadays. Questions will be there and they'll survey it, and based on the feedback they will see what, they accumulate those, they analyze those information, and then based on that they will, take the action. Observation is the provide a direct way of viewing individuals in their environment, how they perform their jobs, tasks, and carry out the processes. So, for example, if I want to collect the requirement, observation like I want to collect the requirement based on the how other guys are doing it. Okay, sometimes if you see this, okay, Flipkart or some other company, they wanted to launch a app, they will see what other guys are doing it, they will just observe it, and based on that they will note down this functionality and note down the requirement. That's become one more process of collecting requirement. Or maybe in your one of the departments, somebody how he his activities, he will note down. Okay, and then according to that he will tell that, okay, this is a process his day-to-day activities doing, and we want to build a software to simplify all those things. So that's called as observation. So just observe somebody. Okay, and prototype is a method of obtaining early feedback on the requirement by providing a working model of expected product before actually building it. You heard about a prototype, right? Somebody given some requirement and just do the prototype how it looks like it before they make it fully, just working on it. So this will help to understand the customer expectation. He can analyze it better and he can give the requirement in a better way. Sometimes nowadays, if you see the large software companies, what they do it, if the customer gives some requirement on some screen, some software they want to do, they just do some prototype in terms of this simulator type. So they just design it and they'll show to the customer, this is what you are expecting it, and if the customer is okay with that, so that then they will start a development. So this is another way of getting the requirements. Okay. Okay, so this benchmarking involves comparing the actual and planned practices, such as processes and operation, to those of the comparable organization to identify the best practices and generate ideas for improvement and provide a basis for measuring the performance. So this is something, some sort of like you have already existing some software from in the market, and you just want to for your organization you wanted to implement it. So you have some benchmark. You can just look into that and then try to build a similar sort of that and add some new features in that. That will become your benchmarking. A context diagram, like I will show you one of the context diagram where you can picturize different processes. Okay, when is the start date? What is the different operation will take place when the user enters it? So I will come to this context diagram. One of the diagrams are there. I will explain you. Document analysis is basically document analysis is used to elicit the requirement by analyzing the existing document and identifying the information relevant to the requirement. So here, what you are going to do, you are going to analyze the existing documentation, okay, and then build your new requirement. So it is more or less like you have existing document, read it, understand those things, and if you want to take those requirements. So normally, sometimes if you see this, the customer give this document and just figure out what they wanted to do it. So this is also one of the things, okay. So document analysis. So actually there are these processes are there. So these are the basically the different tools and techniques that you are going to use it in the collect requirement, which I explained you. Interviews, focus, facilitator workshop. You have a group creative technique. There are 5 types of group techniques. Group decision making techniques are the question, surveys, observation, prototype, benchmarking, context diagram, and document survey. So which I have already explained you what is the requirement document and requirement traceability, which is output of the collect requirement. Okay. So same thing which I have explained you. So tools and techniques. So what are the group creativity techniques are there? Brainstorming, nominal, Delphi technique. Delphi technique and this these are called a group technique, idea, mind mapping diagram, affinity diagram. So so these are the things which I have already covered it. Okay. Okay. So the context diagram which I told you. So what's the context diagram? So just give you an example how the context diagram will look like. Okay. For IT case study. So sometimes the customer give you some such type of a diagram and you need to understand the requirement, or so like new employees is there, they wanted to build some software. There's a software verification install process. That's one of the thing they wanted to do. So what is the process actually? Employee basically needs a software. Okay, so he needs a software, he will receive a software, but that software you need to check it. Let's take an example. Employer requested a software, okay, then whether software is there or not there. So that will be going to be checked by with the open source vendor. If it is open source vendor, they will provide it and publish to download it, okay. But if it's something you want to get it approved from the approved vendor, so what you are going to do it? So you're going to purchase from there, and they will going to basically receive it. So IT staff guys is basically evaluate your software and respond to the request. So this is basically the context diagram for IT cases from if you have heard about this UAT diagram, like unified modeling technique. So where some those models are there, so they can tell you what are the different activities it does it, and then you can figure out this whole process how it works. Okay. So requirement management plan, which is basically the one of the output of this plan scope management. So what are the things the requirement management plan consists of? How the project scope will be controlled, how the project scope will be defined, how the scope verification will be performed at the end of each phase. So it's all about the requirement management plan is basically how your work burnout structure will be created, how the detailed project scope will be created. So more or less, it is all about how you are going to document, manage your requirement. So this is the requirement management will take care of it. Okay. So the requirement traceability matrix, which I have shown you this example, you'll have this the project name, cost center, because every project you can track their requirements through this having this traceability matrix. So you can have like a bigger functionality, you can note down this ID, but within that bigger functionality you can note down the smaller requirement. What is the requirement description you can mention, business opportunity, goal, objective you can mention. So project objective of this all the requirement. What is the WBS deliverable? Is like a work breakdown structure. So if I wanted to do any activities, I will divide into the different pieceable work. I can execute it successfully. So that's called a work breakdown structure. You are dividing work into the different pieces, and then you'll try to execute and just track it, all those things. So that's called a WBS deliverable. Okay. And project design, so how the project design will be there, project development and test cases. So this is how you can track your each and every requirement. So that's what this requirement traceability is there. It is a table that links the requirement to their origin. and traces throughout the life of the project. So throughout the project, you can trace the, this requirement, whether when it has been completed, what is the project objectives are there. Okay, so that is something you can track it. And finally, it provides a structure for managing a changes to the product scope. This is also provide a structure where you can manage the changes to the product scope. If something is happening in the product scope, you can see that, okay, previously the requirement was this thing, now you wanted to change it. So now you can basically, you have some structure to capture, to manage the changes of the product scope. Okay, this process includes, but it's not limited to the pricing. So that's one thing. Requirement to the business needs and opportunity goals, and so these are the part of the project objective. You will going to be here. Product scope will be there. Product design, product development, test strategy and test cases, high level requirement. If you see this, these things are normally requirement traceability will have all those things. Okay, if you see these columns are there. Okay, which is basically all those things. Project objective, product scope. Okay, so next, basically the process, next process of this, scope management, that's a defined scope. Before moving into that one, so did you understand the collect requirement?
Yes.
Okay. So let's move to the next process. So if you have any doubt, you can just note it down. Okay. So define scope is to develop a detailed description of a project and product. So here, detailed description of a project and product means you are going to define each and everything. So on a scope part of you, okay, this thing needs to be done. If I'm just building this phone, okay, just new phone, any company wanted to launch a new smartphone in the market, so they will note down each and every requirements. Okay, what are the description will be there. It should have Android software, or whether iOS software or something, and then what functionality should be there. So detailed description will be mentioned, and this is a part of the defined scope. And what are the in the first phase in version 1, what there should be limit will be there, right? If a company is trying to launch something, so there will be some list of the detail that needs to be done. So they needs to be defined as part of the scope. So what are the things that will be there? That's a scope management plan, project charter, requirements documentation, organizational process and steps. So these are the inputs of the defined scope, because you need a scope management, which is the output of the scope management plan. So for defining a scope, you should have a plan, right? For first phase, what scope will be there, second phase, what scope will be there. So you should have those scopes defined in the scope management plan. So you should have those things. Project charter, high level, it will give you the scope of the project. So project charter is very important. Requirements documentation, since you should have a list of the requirements that you want to do it, and then from there you can define the scope of the work. Like they wanted to give, okay, their requirements. Based on that, you can say that this is the scope of the activities. Like if I'm talking about a phone, so they are given a lot of requirement. Now the scope will be tell that, okay, the first version that we are going to launch it is just have only 3G capability. It does not have a 4G capability. It is a scope of. So it is within. So it is within that, so that scope. If anything new requirement is coming related to the 4G or something, that you can discard it. Okay. So that's what the scope is all about. You have a list of the activity requirement you want to do in the phone, or you wanted to implement it, but you on a high level, what will the scope will be there, that you will going to define it, so that the team who will be working on our development, they will not get deviated. Okay, they know what is the scope of the work. Tools and techniques that you are going to apply it, expert judgment. Yes, when you're defining the scope, you're going to discuss with the team, expert guys who can give their opinions, and that you can think about it. Product analysis, you're going to analyze the product. Yes, what you wanted to develop it, so you're going to analyze and define the scope for that. Alternative generation is basically in terms of what are the alternate options are there for understanding the scope of this work, so you can work on it. Facilitated workshop, like group. Same thing previously, like a group of people just discuss with them what can be the scope of this phone, or what can be the scope of this product, what is the scope of this project. Okay, but you can define it. What is the output? You will have a project scope statement. Final scope statement will tell you the list of the point which will define the scope of a whole project in terms of, like, if I'm building this phone, what will be the scope of whole the project, like okay, this is a 4G phone and this is this much memory, that memory. So it defines all those things. This is something, a scope of this activity that we wanted to do it. So that's a project scope statement. Project scope statement consists of the list of the scope that has been agreed, for a project as a project deliverable. Okay. You will have a project document update. You will be updating your project document, because once you define the scope, you're going to update your project document. So the project scope and product scope, how it look like. Okay, if you see this project, the project scope, on a higher level. So your product scope fits into the product scope, which is related to the product. It gets fits into the project scope. Okay, so this is all about. Product scope is a feature and function that characterizes the product, service, or result. So product scope is very similar to the specific to the product only. Okay, project scope is work that must be performed to deliver the product, service, or result. See the difference. Product scope is more related to the product itself. What feature you wanted to implement in the product, this smartphone, and what function you wanted to implement it. So it is more related to the product. So that will define the product scope. Like this phone, it's a 4G, 5G, or then this much memory. So you are specifying the product scope. Okay. Project scope is an umbrella. Within that, your product scope falls. Okay. So the project scope, you see that work that must be performed. What are the activities that you are going to do it to achieve the product scope, to achieve the product, service, or result? So that's called as a project scope. Like you will be like a project scope on a broader level. It consists of a product along with a few more things. Okay, so that's why if you see this, this project scope. Okay, you have a product scope. You know the what are things that you want to build it. Along with it, you should have a scope of project schedule, like what the timeline you need to complete it. That's also the part of the scope only. A defect management, user training, status report. So all this comes under the project scope. So the project scope on higher level, within that you will have a product scope. Okay. Same thing this diagram, like you will have a okay. I think this diagram long. It should not be. Sorry, just one second. So this will be like the product, and this will be this one. Okay. This is the correct one, so I think this is the mistake. I don't know. Just leave it. Okay, no issue. The same thing. So the what is a project scope statement? So the project scope statement is all about what are the things that the project scope statement consists of: project objectives, product scope description, project requirement, project boundaries, project deliverables, project acceptance criteria, project constraint and assumption. That will be part of your each. These are the points which basically the project scope statement consists of. Final project objective for which you wanted to do it. I wanted to build this this smart 4G smartphone or 3G smartphone. That's the project objective. Product scope description. You are going to specify the each and scope of the product, like 3G is this much 6 GB RAM, this Android phone, or all those things that specify the product. So that's a product scope description. Project requirement. So when you wanted to deliver it, when you complete it, so what will the budget of this phone, like a 10,000, or what will be the dollar, so that you're going to. So project boundaries, when you wanted to implement. Project deliverable, when you can consider this is what are the deliverables will be there. Like the first phase is launched, like OS is ready, screen touch is ready, hardware is ready. So that will be your project deliverable. Project acceptance criteria. When you are going to accept that, okay, what are the acceptance criteria for accepting this product? Okay. like it should perform it when I should call to somebody, call should go there, and I can receive the text message, I can browse the internet. So these are the acceptance criteria. Okay. Project constraint and assumption. What constraints are there that you are going to consider? What assumption you will going to assume it? Okay. Like a smartphone, it should assume that like the SIM card that you are going to use it, so it's compatible like this micro SIM or other SIM. The company will going to provide a micro SIM. So these are the assumptions. But normally you'll see that based on the assumption, you'll see what are the risks and there, and you'll take action according to that. Initial identify risk. What will the initial risk will be there? Like maybe this risk will be, you don't know the battery, the life of battery, or maybe how success of this project can be also. Okay, the budget may be higher. This you decided that this is a product which fell to the lower budget, but unfortunately costlier. It costs you more. So that's so different thing that will come: schedule milestone, initial project organization, funding limitation, configuration management requirement, and approval requirement. So these are the things which specifies part of the project scope statement. Okay. So elements of a project charter and project scope statement. So what are the things will be there in the project charter? What are the things will be there? Project scope statement. See the project charter. Project scope statement is all about the deliverables, constraint, assumption. It's all about related to the product and project. Okay. But project charter consists of, apart from these things will be there, but it have more other thing also, like project purpose and justification, which I have shown you earlier. Like you have a high level requirement, but here it is a more detail what they wanted to do it. Okay. Here in the project charter, high level project description will be there. High level risk will be there, but here it's in more detail way. Summary milestone schedule are there. So you have a summary milestone, summary budget is there, which maybe is not there in the project scope, maybe. Okay. So that what will be the budget of the project. Project charter tells you the high level, what will the budget will be there, what will the high level milestone be there, but that will not be part of the project scope statement. Project scope is going to specify the scope of the activities. Okay. Project approval requirement, stakeholder list, assigned project manager. So name of authority or sponsor or the person authorizing the project. So you'll have a lot more details in the project charter as compared to the project scope statement. Okay. So one of the processes is related to this scope management is a create WBS. That's a work breakdown structure. This is basically the process of subdividing a project deliverables and project work into the smaller and more manageable components. Means you're dividing the process of dividing project deliverables. You have you wanted to implement this okay. So I just wanted to implement call functionality in my smartphone. Okay. So what are the deliverables there that you're going to say? If you're going to dial to the somebody else, call should go. Okay. I should be able to receive it. I should be able to text it. I should be able to browse it internet. So you have a lot of deliverables, but what you can do, you can divide those deliverables into the smaller stuff, like call functionality. You're calling, so that's one deliverable. Browsing internet features, that's become one more deliverables of this project. Okay. Maybe like downloading app. So that's one more the features of this product. Okay. So you can divide to manage the work, to manage the project. What you can do, you can divide this project delivery into the smaller, and then you can manage. So this is called a create WBS. That's why it is called a work breakdown structure. Divide the work into the smaller components. So what will you think is there? You should have a scope management plan. Yes, because I should know what are the list, what are the part of the in my in this project, what are the things that needs to be done it. Project scope statement, along with the scope management, it will identify what things needs to be done at what time. Okay, so it's a plan will be there. Then you have a project scope statement. What is a project scope statement? See, this is something project scope statement consists of. This is all these things, it will going to help you to divide the work. Okay. So you'll have a project requirement documentation. Yes, when you have a requirement, it's very easy to divide the task. Enterprise environment factor, organizational process. This is a, when you're dividing this, how these things can affect it. These things can also affect your your work. So that's why it's important. So normally, if you see that these are the two processes, you will get most of the process. Okay, these are two inputs. What you're going to do is expert judgment and decomposition. You're going to discuss with the team and divide the work according to that, or decomposition, just on a higher level, just divide it. Okay, I will do this thing. This functionality will going to do by somebody else. So just decomposition. Okay. What you will get you will get a scope baseline. Final thing. Okay, scope baseline and the project document update. So I will come to the what is the scope baseline. So here is one slide which will tell you. Okay, so the scope baseline is basically consists of the scope statement, okay, project scope statement plus WBS and WBS dictionary. So we'll come to this project scope baseline, okay. So what is this? A project scope baseline is consist of three things. One is project scope statement, WBS and WBS dictionary, okay. And then you will have a project document update. So these are basically the work breakdown structures. Okay, so how this is a simple example that I'm trying to show you, that where a sample WBS gets decomposed down through the work package. So you will have a value management system project. Okay, so you can divide the task into the needs assessment, standard development, system engineering, and project management. So need assessment you can divide into the current system audit. So you can keep on dividing those higher tasks into the smaller one, so that you can manage the activities. Okay, so this is called a WBS. This is one example, like a software part. Okay, you can sample WBS organized by the phase. Different phases are there, like project requirement, project management, project requirement, detailed design, construct, and integration test. So project management, you'll keep on planning, meeting, administration part. You divided those WBS. Project requirement, software, user documentation. So when you dividing the task and when you dividing any activities into the smaller, it's easy to do the accountability. So the accountability will be easy. You can assign it to somebody and you can track it properly when it can be done. So it's very easy to manage the work. Okay. Okay. So major deliverables in the WBS. So this is one more example. Same sort of that. Okay. You can divide into smaller. Bigger activities, smaller activities. WBS Dictionary Template, which what is a WBS Dictionary Template? So there's two things. One is a WBS, one is a WBS Dictionary. WBS is list. You are going to note down each and every activities. Like this is one activity, this second activity, third, fourth, fifth. So you list down it. Okay. This is a part of this project management. Like point 1. This is 1.1, 1.2. This is a 2, 2.1, 2.2, 2.3. 3, 3.1, 3.2. So you can divide it and then you can track it. WBS dictionary is basically information related to this WBS. Detailed information, right? I should have a detailed information. So that's called as WBS dictionary. Okay. So one second. See here what you will have it. You will have a project name. You will have a WBS name. That's you'll have a project name. You will have a WBS name. What name is this? WBS ID 1.1 or something. Parent ID. This one belongs to this one. You can mention parent ID. Owner, who will be responsible for doing that activities. When you started, when you ended, what is the detail? What is the deliverable that you can expect it? What is the acceptance criteria? What is the assumption on this task? All those things are very much important, okay? WBS dictionary. So this is simple template for the WBS dictionary. So miscellaneous terms, what will be the work package, code of accounts, and control account, rolling web. So this is not important at this point of time. We're going to, take it on the, the next thing when you're going to come to this, okay? Rolling with planning or control account or code of account. So that is a more related to this, WBS. Okay, so since it is in the slide, so just get it, try to understand a little bit on this. And but on a coming slide, you'll or maybe not a coming slide, basically on the next chapter, you'll understand better way what is basically all about it. What is the rolling wave planning? Okay. So what is a work package? Work package is basically a deliverable at the lowest level of WBS. Means whatever you have done it, final output of the WBS, that's your become a package. Code of account, numbering system used to identify unique component of WBS. So it's a code of account means you can track it like this information. Maybe it's a WBS ID or a code of account. You can call it same because you can identify this unique component for WBS. Okay, this code of account. Control account is a management control point where the scope, budget, actual cost, exposure are integrated and compared to the EV first. So it is a for maybe if it is a very big project, so you can assign this control account to each and every WBS. Each and every WBS you can assign to that, and you can track it how much money has been spent on completing this WBS. Okay, so you can assign to the one code. Okay, and you can track it. Okay, for building this application, this part, who have involved it, what are the resources involved, how much cost was spend it, so you can track it. And this is very important in terms of financial perspective. You can track it, which task is taking what time and what is their budget was there. So this will be important. So that's why it's called a control accounts. Okay, the cost center. And the rolling wave planning is it is form of progressive elaboration. Work for near term is planned into the detail. So it is like you don't know much about what is you don't plan everything in a detailed way for all the activities of the project. Here what you are going to do, what is coming the next, that you are going to plan it in detailed way. Remaining thing, just leave it. Okay, it just take an example this thing. Okay, so I'm at this phase. Okay, project management. So I will plan these two activities in a very detailed way. What needs to be done it, but the training this phase on, I will not plan it much detail. What are the activities involved in this WBS, that WBS. So this is called a rolling wave planning. With what is coming next, you will plan it detailed way, but not all the things which is coming in the future. Future part will plan it whenever it comes to us. Okay, so that's called a rolling wave planning. Okay. So these are the terms. Just try to remember it. When it is going to, it can be going to come it. So more on it is related to your WBS. Okay. So one of this part of this the scope management is a validate scope. Here we are going to validate the scope of the work. Okay. So it is basically to formalize the acceptance of a completed project deliverable. Here you are going to formalize okay, what has been decided in the project, whether it has been completed or not. So you are going to validate it, okay, the scope of the work. So what you will have it, you will have a project management plan, okay. So now let me tell you, this validate scope and control scope is a part of monitoring and controlling, okay. So here after the execution means you have something which has been delivered. Now you want to validate all those things. So what input will be there? You will have a project management plan, you have a requirement documentation, requirement traceability matrix, validated deliverables, work performance data. So these are the things that you have it. So to validate it, okay. What you are going to do is, so you are going to basically do the inspection, do the see whatever they have delivered, you are going to inspect it, right? Or maybe you are going to do the group decision making technique. You will decide whether you have what they have given it has been accepted or not. So you can use a different techniques of a group decision making technique. So maybe you can, so this technique you can use it also. That's a group decision making technique for your validation also. Like you can take a majority part, right? Look, for example, some deliverables are there. Now you are comparing it. So you can ask with the majority guys, okay, somebody says, oh, this is whatever they have delivered it, I'm okay with that. So wherever the majority is there, you can accept it. So this is one way of doing a validating your requirement, okay, validating your accepted deliverable. So that's why the group decision making technique can be also used as for validating the scope of the validating the scope of your deliverable. So that is how inspection. Yes, you can easily inspect it. Go and see whatever they defined and see whether as per the plan they have done it or not. So that's the inspection part, okay. So these things, validate scope is all are coming after the project is delivered. It's monitoring and controlling part, okay. What will output? Accepted deliverables. You'll say that, okay, I'm accepting it or rejecting. You'll have a change request. If you can say that, oh, you did not done the way it's been defined, go and change it. You can ask work performance information. You have the work performance information like whenever you have input as a work performance data, when it passes through the control mechanism, you will have a work performance information. Okay, try to remember the previous where the logical sequence. You will have a work performance data. When it goes to the control process, you will have a work performance information, because validate scope is one of the control process. Okay, because it belongs from the monitoring and controlling. Then project document updates. Yes, you will be updating some document because based on the validation part. So the last part of this, this chapter is the control scope. Very simple. The way it's explained this, you are controlling the scope of the work. You make sure that it does not go beyond that, what has been decided. So this is really important. And from the project manager perspective, they keep on controlling the scope, make sure that they, all the requirement, make sure that the requirement does not go beyond that what they have decided earlier. So this thing, what you are going to do it here, you will basically monitor the status of the project and product scope and managing the changes to the scope baseline. So here you are going to monitor the status of the project. You're going to see the state of the project, how things are going on. You're going to the product scope and managing the changes to the scope baseline. And according to the, you're going to manage scope baseline. So that's basically more on the monitoring part. Okay. So what you need it here, you need a project management plan, you need a project requirement documentation, requirement traceability matrix, work performance data, and organization process asset. Okay. So why you need a work performance data? Because this is a control, monitoring and control process, right? So work performance data is your input, and you will see this output will be work performance information. If you want to control the scope, obviously I should have a plan. I should have a list of the requirements, so that will be part of the requirement documentation. I should have a traceability requirement. You can trace the requirement, right? You can trace the requirement from the root. Okay, this requirement belongs from which functionality and when it has been completed. What is the project objective? So requirement traceability, if you have it, it's easy to control the scope. Work performance data as an organization processor, which I have already. Variance analysis means you're going to compare it, what has been see what was being delivered and what was being planned. So you just compare it, do the variance analysis. If any changes are there, just analyze it, okay, and see suggested. So that will be your tools and techniques that we will be going to use it in a control scope. So output will be your work performance information, change request, project management plan updates, project document updates, and organization process update. So these are basically your output of this control scope. Because as I mentioned you that this is a monitoring controlling. Since you have a work performance data as input, you will have this information. Monitoring controlling will be monitor controlling, so you will have a change request because you have something you wanted to change it, you're going to give the change request. Since you are going to change it, you will be updating a project management plan, so there will be project management plan updates. You will be updating a project document updates. You will going to update your organization process of it. So basically these are your control scope, okay. That's it. And one second. If you have any doubt, just you can ask me.